bar was quiet, too quiet for a Wednesday night. In the far corner, Cub sat alone, his eyes sharp as he thumbed through a stack of protest flyers. The low light of the bar barely touched his silent form.
She glanced up from her drink, catching Cubs in the back eating pastry from the Turkish bakery around the corner. Her smirk was slight but telling. She knew his kind all too well. At the bar had seen her share of rough nights, and this one looked no different. Her red hair framed her face in loose curls, and her eyes held the kind of weariness that only came from too many late nights and too many broken promises. Just as she looked away, the bar door swung open, letting in a gust of cold air and Fingers. The name alone brought a twinge of tension to the room. Fingers was rough around the edges. A man with dangerous loyalty to his cult. He moved towards Cubs, each step heavy, like he was crushing secrets beneath his feet. She watched, feigning indifference but intrigued as Cubs glanced up, freezing mid-count. Fingers leaned in, his voice low but laced with anger.
You think you can come around here and get away with it?
The woman sipped her drink slowly, her eyes darting between the two men. In a place like this, it was only a matter of time before things got messy. And tonight, she had a front-row seat. Cubs didn't flinch, his gaze steady as he eyed Fingers with that same cold calculation he used creating his protest signs. But Fingers wasn't here to play nice. Fingers growled, his voice a low rumble that carried through the bar.
You think you can come around here on my turf? And get away with it? Get out of here lickety-split, but not before I make sure you regret every quarter you put in the parking meters.
The woman at the bar raised an eyebrow, amused despite herself. She knew that look in Fingers' eyes, a mix of desperation and rage that could turn deadly in a heartbeat. Cubs leaned back, unbothered, as if he was simply calculating the odds. The woman watched, her pulse quickening as she gripped her glass tighter. She could almost see it, Fingers reaching into his coat, Cubs twitching with readiness. But for now, it was a deadly stalemate, each man daring the other to make the first move.
Lickety-split, huh?
Cubs muttered, letting the words hang in the air like smoke.
Well, then, I'd say you've got about 10 seconds to leave before this night goes south, and not in the way you're thinking.
The wind whipped around him, pulling at his collar and sending a chill into the smoky warmth of the bar. They called him Windy. The woman glanced up, her interest piqued. In the doorway stood a trim, lean man, middle-aged but with the athletic build that hinted he could still hold his own. He wore running gear that clung neatly to his frame, and close-shaved goatee of gray framed his jaw. Windy's gaze swept the room until it landed on Fingers, who was still standing over Cubs with a finger jabbed in his face, the threat hanging thick between them. Without missing a beat, Windy strode forward. His steps steady and controlled, each one echoing on the bar's wooden floor.
Fingers,
Windy called, his voice low and firm but cutting through the tension like a blade.
Windy. What happened? Chi-town get too hot for you? Ain't you got better places to be?
not when you're out here peddling that garbage you're calling truth all over the neighborhood.
Fingers smirked, feigning a casual ease as he slipped his hand into his coat pocket, the flash of a pamphlet visible for a split second.
What people need, Wendy, is a little education. Maybe they'd like to know who's really pulling the strings around here.
They don't need you feeding them your lies. You're poisoning this place, Fingers, and I'm here to make sure it stops tonight.
The woman at the bar watched, now more curious than ever. This wasn't a typical bar squabble, it was something deeper, something that carried a weight that most wouldn't understand. Cubs leaned back, suddenly content to stay out of this new confrontation, his fingers loosely tapping the bar. The stakes had shifted, and everyone could feel it. Wendy took a step closer, his voice low but forceful.
You walk out of here. Lickety split. And take your little stack of lies with you.
The whole bar seemed to hold its breath. Wendy's eyes locked with Fingers, a silent battle of wills. And as the woman watched, she knew this wasn't just about money or turf. It was about control, influence, and what lines each man was willing to cross to keep his hold on the neighborhood. It was about saving the children,